Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're headed to the cloud forests of Central America
Oh,
to
yeah.
explore a creature that's so stunning it was once thought to be a god.
Really?
The Resplendent Quetzal. Now we've got a ton of sources that really dive into the details about this amazing bird,
Okay.
from its unbelievable colors to the crucial role it plays in the cloud forest ecosystem.
Cool.
We talk a lot about how interconnected nature is, but
Yeah,
the story of the Quetzal really brings that concept to life.
absolutely. It's fascinating how just one species can be so vital to the health of an entire habitat.
Yeah, and speaking of captivating, have you ever actually seen a male Quetzal in full display?
I haven't.
I can only imagine. I mean, the sources are saying it had these iridescent emerald green feathers,
Wow.
a fiery red chest and tail feathers
Wait, what?
that can stretch over 3 feet long.
No way. That's longer than my arm.
I know it sounds like something right out of a fantasy novel.
Seriously, imagine trying to fly through a dense forest with those things trailing behind you.
Right. I mean, how do they even...
But those colors are not just for show. They actually play a critical role when it comes to attracting mates.
Oh, interesting.
And they can even indicate the overall health of the forest.
So you're saying like a healthy forest equals a super vibrant male Quetzal.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to picture like a dull, faded Quetzal in a struggling forest.
Yeah,
I guess that's a pretty powerful reminder of, the impact we have on the natural world.
for sure.
So we've got the males all decked out, but what about the females?
The females, well, they take a slightly different approach.
Different now.
They don't have those crazy long tail feathers like the males.
Oh, right.
But they're still beautiful.
Oh, I bet.
Their feathers are this subtle blend of greens and browns, which, provides amazing camouflage.
Oh, that makes sense.
It really highlights how diverse nature's strategies for survival can be.
It makes you wonder if the male Quetzal ever gets a little jealous.
Haha,
He's
mate.
over there struggling through the branches with his elaborate train, while the females are perfectly adapted to their environment.
Right, but those vibrant colors are crucial for attracting mates.
That's true.
It's all about ensuring the species continues.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off like so many things in nature.
Okay, so we've established that the Quetzal is absolutely gorgeous,
Definitely.
but, our research shows there's so much more than just a pretty face.
Oh yeah, definitely. They have a really important job in the cloud forest ecosystem.
What do you mean?
Well, they're seed dispersers.
Seed disperser.
Yeah, their diet is mostly wild avocados and other fruits.
Hold on, they eat avocados.
Yep.
So they're like the original avocado enthusiasts?
Uh-huh, you could say that.
They've been enjoying avocado toast for centuries.
Pretty much. But in all seriousness, this makes them incredibly important for the cloud forest.
How so?
They eat the fruit, travel through the forest, and then deposit the seeds.
Oh, okay.
And that helps spread and regenerate these vital trees.
So they're not just eating avocados, they're planting the future of the forest.
Exactly.
That's pretty amazing.
It really shows you how everything is connected in this ecosystem.
For sure.
And there's actually research that shows that the Quetzal is the main seed disperser for some wild avocado species.
Wait, so without the Quetzal, those avocado trees wouldn't reproduce as effectively?
Exactly.
Wow, that's a pretty big responsibility for a bird.
It is. They depend on the avocado for food, and the avocado depends on them to survive. It's a symbiotic relationship.
That's incredible. I mean, this simple act of eating and dispersing seeds
Right.
has such a huge impact on the whole cloud forest ecosystem.
Absolutely.
It really emphasizes that interconnectedness we keep talking about.
It does, and this interconnectedness goes beyond just the ecosystem. It goes deep into the cultural history of the region as well.
Oh, that's right. I was just thinking about that. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense why ancient civilizations considered the Quetzal to be so special. It's not just a pretty bird. It's a symbol of life renewal and this delicate balance of nature.
Yeah, you got it. It's been a sacred symbol for centuries.
Right, and I think our sources mention the Maya and Aztec civilizations, right?
Yeah, both cultures had a deep reverence for the Quetzal.
Interesting.
They saw it as a symbol of freedom, beauty, and divine power.
Wow.
They even associated it with Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god.
Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god.
Yeah.
What a powerful image. A serpent covered in the Quetzal's vibrant feathers.
Yeah.
No wonder they considered this bird to be sacred.
And those feathers weren't just any feathers, they were extremely valuable.
Really?
Reserved only for royalty and used in important religious ceremonies.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine a headdress covered in hundreds of those shimmering green tail feathers?
Oh my gosh, that must have been an incredible sight.
Yeah.
To think something as delicate and beautiful as a feather could hold so much cultural significance?
It's true. They represented power, spirituality, and a connection to nature.
Right.
And the fact that they were used in ceremonies and adornments just shows the deep respect these cultures had for the bird.
And for the whole ecosystem it represents.
Yes.
It's amazing how the story of the Quetzal connects ecology, culture, and history.
It really is.
But it makes me wonder, if it was so revered back then.
Yeah.
How is it facing threats today?
That's a great question, and it really highlights the challenges we have when we're trying to balance human needs with protecting the environment.
So what's changed? Why is this amazing bird, once considered a god, now facing an uncertain future?
Well, the Quetzal is currently listed as near threatened by the IUCN.
Near threatened.
Yeah.
I know what endangered means, but what's a near threatened actually mean?
So the IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, uses a system to classify the conservation status of different species.
Okay.
And near threatened is just below vulnerable on that scale.
Gotcha.
So it means that the Quetzal's population isn't in immediate danger, but it is facing serious threats
Okay.
that could quickly make their situation much worse.
So it's like a warning sign,
Yeah, exactly.
telling us we need to act now before things get any worse.
Right.
So what exactly are the threats that are putting the Quetzal in this position?
Deforestation is a big one. Agricultural expansion and illegal logging are destroying their cloud forest habitat.
Right. And as we talked about earlier, the Quetzal is super dependent on the health of the forest.
Exactly. When forests are cleared, it fragments their habitat, disrupts their food sources.
And ultimately impacts their ability to survive.
Right.
It's kind of ironic that something so beautiful could be threatened by the very things we humans value,
Like what?
like land for agriculture and resources like timber.
It is ironic, and unfortunately there are other factors at play too.
Like what?
Climate change is another big concern.
Oh, right.
That delicate balance in the cloud forest ecosystem is really sensitive to any changes in temperature and rainfall.
Can you give me an example of how climate change is actually affecting the Quetzal?
Sure. So cloud forests need a consistent level of moisture and humidity.
Okay.
But as temperatures rise because of climate change, that balance gets messed up.
Oh, I see.
This can change the timing and availability of the fruits the Quetzals eat.
Oh, so like those avocado trees we were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
If climate change messes with their fruiting patterns,
Right.
the Quetzal might not have enough food at critical times like during breeding season.
Exactly. It can also impact their nesting success.
How so?
Well, they typically nest high up in trees,
Right.
but if it gets too hot, it can be really harmful to the baby chicks.
Oh, wow.
This can lead to fewer chicks surviving.
It's like a chain reaction.
Yeah.
Deforestation is breaking apart their homes, and climate change is messing with the rhythm of their lives.
Exactly. And there's another threat that's even more direct.
What's that?
The illegal pet trade.
You mean people are taking these amazing birds from the wild and keeping them as pets?
Yeah, sadly it's true.
I can't imagine being ripped away from my natural environment and locked in a cage,
Right.
especially for a bird as magnificent and free as the Quetzal.
It's a cruel practice driven by greed and a lack of understanding about nature's delicate balance. This illegal trade not only takes individuals out of the wild, but it disrupts breeding patterns and can fragment populations even more.
This is heartbreaking, especially considering their cultural significance.
Right.
A bird once worshipped as a god now facing threats from the very civilization that once revered it.
It's a powerful reminder that we need to find a better balance between human progress and protecting the environment.
Absolutely. So we've gone from celebrating the Quetzal's beauty and cultural importance to facing the harsh realities of the threats they're up against.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take in, and honestly, it feels a little overwhelming.
It's understandable to feel that way, but it's important to remember that awareness is the first step.
Right.
And the good news is that there are people and organizations out there working hard to protect the Quetzal and its habitat.
Okay, so let's shift gears and focus on some of the positive things that are being done. What initiatives are giving us hope for the future of the Quetzal?
One of the most effective approaches is habitat protection. Countries like Costa Rica and Guatemala have set up national parks and reserves
Wow.
specifically to protect the cloud forests where Quetzals live.
So it's like creating safe havens for them,
Exactly.
where they can thrive without all those threats we talked about.
Right, and these protected areas don't just benefit the Quetzal.
Oh, right.
They help preserve the amazing biodiversity of the whole cloud forest.
It's a win-win situation.
Exactly.
And I read in one of our sources that Costa Rica has been really successful in their conservation efforts.
Oh, yeah.
They've actually seen Quetzal populations increase in some areas.
That's awesome.
And I think they've invested a lot in ecotourism.
That's right. Ecotourism has been a big part of protecting the Quetzal and boosting the local economy.
I'm curious, how does ecotourism help?
Well, when it's done responsibly, ecotourism is a sustainable way to fund conservation efforts,
I see.
while also teaching visitors about how important it is to protect these fragile ecosystems.
Oh, that makes sense.
Imagine guided tours where people can see Quetzals in their natural habitat. And their park fees and spending directly contribute to the Quetzal's protection.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool model.
Beauty get to experience the magic of seeing a Quetzal in the wild.
Yeah.
And their visit directly supports the bird's conservation.
Exactly. It's a beautiful cycle.
It really is. And it's not just about tourism either.
Right.
There are also a lot of reforestation projects happening.
Yeah, these projects are focused on planting trees to reconnect those fragmented forests,
Oh, wow.
creating corridors for Quetzals to move more freely and expand their populations.
So we're not just protecting existing forests, but also actively restoring what's been lost.
Exactly. It's like we're piecing the cloud forest back together.
That's a great way to put it. And while these big initiatives are crucial,
Right.
I think it's important to remember that we can all make a difference.
Absolutely.
So what can we do in our everyday lives to help the Quetzal, even if we don't live anywhere near the cloud forests?
One thing you can do is support organizations that are working on the ground. Even small donations can make a big difference when it comes to funding research habitat restoration and anti-poaching efforts.
That makes sense. Are there other things we can do beyond donating money?
Definitely being mindful of our consumption habits is really important.
What do you mean?
Like choosing sustainable products, reducing our carbon footprint, and advocating for responsible forestry practices.
Right.
All of those things contribute to a healthier planet,
Yeah.
which in turn helps species like the Quetzal.
You know, it's easy to feel powerless when you see all the news about environmental problems.
I get it.
But hearing about these conservation successes and the ways we can help, even in small ways, it gives me hope.
I agree. The story of the Resplendent Quetzal is a powerful reminder that we're all connected.
Yeah.
Our choices have an impact. And by working together, we can make a real difference for this magnificent bird and the incredible ecosystems it calls home.
As we wrap up this deep dive into the world of the Resplendent Quetzal, I want to leave you with this thought. This bird, once considered a god, now depends on us to protect its future. Imagine the cloud forests alive with the vibrant flash of emerald green and the echo of their calls ringing through the trees. That future is within our reach, but it requires us to recognize our role as stewards of this planet. What will you do to contribute? Thanks for joining us. I'm starting to see why those ancient civilizations thought the Quetzal was so important. I mean, it's not just about looks.
Right.
It's a symbol of life and renewal and that delicate balance we find in nature.
It is a great observation, and the people in this region have felt that way for a long time.
For centuries.
Centuries, yeah. The Quetzal has always held a special place in their beliefs.
Our sources mention the Maya and the Aztecs, right?
Yep. Both cultures really revered the Quetzal.
Interesting.
They saw it as this symbol of freedom and beauty and divine power,
Wow.
often associating it with Quetzalcoatl.
Who's that?
Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god.
A feathered serpent god. That's an intense image in itself. A serpent with the Quetzal's feathers?
Right.
No wonder they saw it as sacred.
And those feathers were really special.
How so?
I mean, they were super valuable. Only royalty could have them.
Oh, wow.
And they were used in important religious ceremonies.
I can imagine.
Like picture a headdress with hundreds of those shimmering green tail feathers.
Oh my gosh, that must have been amazing to see.
Seriously, to think something as delicate and beautiful as a feather could mean so much.
Yeah, it's amazing.
They symbolized power, spirituality, and that deep connection to nature.
Right.
And when they use those feathers in ceremonies and stuff, it shows how much respect they had for the bird and the whole ecosystem.
That's so cool. It's fascinating how the Quetzal's story combines ecology and culture and history.
Yeah, it's incredible.
But if they thought it was so special back then, how come it's facing all these threats today?
It's a great question, and it really shows how tough it is to balance our needs with protecting the environment.
So what's changed? Why is this once divine creature now in such a tough spot?
Well, right now, the Quetzal is listed as near threatened by the IUCN.
Near threatened?
Yeah.
I get what endangered means, but what does near threatened mean?
Yeah, so the International Union for Conservation of Nature, the IUCN,
Okay.
they have a system for classifying how threatened different species are.
Right.
And near threatened is right below vulnerable.
Gotcha.
Basically, it means the Quetzal's numbers aren't super low right now, but there are serious threats.
Okay.
That could make things a lot worse really quickly.
Like a warning sign.
Yeah, exactly. We need to act now before it's too late.
I agree. So what are the biggest threats to the Quetzal?
Deforestation is a huge problem. Things like agricultural expansion and illegal dogging are wiping out their habitat.
And we talk about how important the forest is to the Quetzal.
Exactly. When they clear the forests, it fragments their habitat, disrupts their food sources.
And ultimately affects their ability to survive.
Eek.
It's pretty ironic how something so beautiful is threatened by the things we humans want.
Like what?
Like land for farming, or resources like timber.
Yeah, it is ironic. And it's not just that. There are other factors, too.
Oh, right. What else is going on?
Climate change is a major concern.
Oh, right.
The cloud forest ecosystem is really delicate and sensitive to changes in temperature and rainfall.
I bet. Can you give me an example of how